Hola amiga, ¿cómo estás? Me da mucho gusto verte. I'm glad we're together again for our tea talk. This time I invited some friends, and I'll tell you why, Karina. This is, you know, Sandy and Patricia.
Clara, ¿cómo están?
Well, they're also, they're also our ends and injectors, but I just got my Botox done, and everywhere I go, I feel like people are talking about it.
You look fabulous,
well,
amiga.
thank you. But I wanted to have some friends here to join us and talk about the do's and don'ts and everything that I think we all want to know, especially when we start getting stuff done. So, first most important question, because I hear this all the time. When should you start getting injections? Anything like from Botox to filler, how soon should you start? Let's start with Patricia. Tell me.
So for me, that's a tough question because I'm super conservative. So I don't like for them to start super young.
What is super young though?
People are coming in at their 20s now.
Okay.
And to me personally, this is my personal opinion, I think that's a little too young.
Okay.
Unless you're already starting to show wrinkles and stuff.
And sometimes you do.
Permanent, yes. And so
Yes.
there, I have gotten some patients that have had already permanent wrinkles, so I'm like, okay, yes. But now it's a trend, so too young for me, it's not a good age. 20s, but maybe 25, 30s, yes.
What do you think, Sandy?
Okay, so I'm with her on that. However, Botox does prevent.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if you want it, you want to start early and you want to prevent, who am I to tell you what to do?
Muy bien.
Is there such a thing? I've always wondered, there's too much Botox. Can you guys tell or know when it's done right or wrong? Or what do you, like when you're starting out and you know it's done correctly? And you guys are advanced injectors because it matters. Tell us real quick the difference, but when you can tell that it's right and done wrong.
So the company does tell us or gives us guidelines of how many units to use on certain areas. So we try to follow those guidelines of units and like that. So too much, it's
I
if
think
you're I don't know
paraliza el
about
movimiento.
that, but yes.
Sí.
But that's the point of it to be. People call it frozen.
Okay.
You want to look frozen. It's not the proper word, but that's what people describe it as. But there is certain guidelines or units we have to follow per the company to do it.
And some people like the frozen look.
Yeah,
Yes,
some people do.
Some people do.
It just depends what someone is looking
Yes.
for.
Right.
Have you? And tell me if you guys have seen this. I know you do, but on social media, especially, like Botox gone wrong, and half the face is lifted, and I think when people haven't done it before, they really get scared.
Sí, claro.
But
Te deforma la cara, te la puedes.
sí,
si no está hecho
si no
correctamente.
vas con alguien que está bien entrenado, que es lo importante, which you guys both are. You're and I keep saying this, RNs. I mean, we're in the United States, so everyone here, tell me about to be able to inject Botox in this country, and I know you guys train and all of that. So what do you need?
So you need your bachelor. Actually, you don't even need a bachelor's. It could be a 2-year degree.
But be an RN.
But you have to be an RN.
Which is a registered nurse.
Yes, and pretty much that's it. In this, well, it depends by state, because if you go to Florida, you have to be a nurse practitioner. So it varies by state.
Okay.
So we're kind of in the Wild West.
Okay.
And then, but then you do a training, a certification, and all of those things.
Yeah, so I have tons of certifications. I continue my education as well. I know that she does, and all of her people that she works with. So you kind of want to look for that when you're looking for an injector. You want to ask, do you continue your education? Where do you go for training? Who have you trained with? I feel like.
Ahora, tengo una pregunta muy específica. Yo recuerdo haber empezado a utilizar Botox cuando tenía alrededor de 33 años. Hoy en día tengo 46, pero recuerdo que me duraba mucho más. Entonces mi pregunta es, ¿esto es debido a cómo tu cuerpo lo absorbe o edad? ¿Qué es cómo funciona? O sea, ¿por qué estoy sintiendo que ahora cuando me lo aplico, el efecto termina mucho más rápido que, obvio, cuando empecé alrededor de los 33?
Ok. Entonces, tiene que ver con tu edad, porque cuando estás más jovencita, tienes más elasticidad. Entonces, cuando absorbe el Botox, tiene más support y vas a tener efectos mejor que 10, 15 años más allá, ¿verdad?
Claro.
pero también tiene que ver con tu metabolismo, tiene que ver con si estás tomando demasiado, tu lifestyle.
El estilo de vida,
Yeah.
todo eso. Yeah. So go ahead. You can say it in English or Spanish,
doesn't
whatever you're comfortable with.
matter.
If you know Chinese, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mandarin. Mandarin's the language.
So you do start to build resistance to the product at a certain time.
Okay.
Also, your metabolism, like Sandy said, breaks it down faster. Some doctors don't. If you do fat burners or you exercise a lot, you're gonna speed up your metabolism, so that's gonna break it down even quicker.
Okay.
So yes, now it's gonna burn it off quicker. Maybe at 2.5 months, like for you, you're gonna start seeing some slight movement coming back.
Okay.
So it is common, unfortunately, that the movement starts coming back.
Y otra cosa, por ejemplo, existe el Botox y hay algo que compite con Botox que funciona de la misma manera.
Dysport.
There's
Dysport,
different brands out
Xeomin,
there.
Daxify, what else? Jabot.
There's a lot of
So
them
there's a
out
lot
there.
of different brands.
And you just get with your injector to figure out which
one works for you, or you might have to change it up.
Okay, next question. I'm curious because people don't know the difference and they interchange them, especially when they haven't done them or they haven't really gone and they see stuff online. Explain the difference between Botox and filler.
Very different. Very different.
So go ahead.
We'll both go at it.
Yeah.
So Botox is just for wrinkles. That's how I describe it. Just for wrinkles and preventative. Filler, it's just like the word says. It fills in somewhere to give you volume. So completely different. Botox face up, filler face down.
Eyes up.
Filler.
Okay.
Yeah. So Botox
De los ojos para arriba.
para arriba y solamente para las arrugas.
Okay.
No te va a rellenar.
Okay.
Y el relleno es para rellenar una área que falta volumen.
Por ejemplo, con la edad como que pierdes un poquito del volumen de los cachetes, ¿no?
Todo pierde.
Sí,
Elasticidad, grasa,
Ajá.
también por eso falta el
Oh,
volumen.
that's right.
¿Y
That's right.
cuántos tipos de filler existen y cuáles funcionan mejor para qué tipo de edad,
You can
persona?
answer in English, like I said.
Un chorro existe.
A ver.
En Europa tienen un chorro de fillers que no tenemos aquí.
Okay.
They're actually advanced in Europe. They're scale level and they're ahead of us in the aesthetic industry. But so there's a ton of fillers that exist out there. Most of us use Juvederm and Restylane family of products, and maybe some. I can't even think of any of the other ones because that's basically what we both use. But yeah, there's a ton.
What can it be used for? What are some of the areas, like she was saying, to fill in here? But
Radius is another one too. So what it can
Yeah.
be used for is you can do it you can inject it in the face, but you could also, I just went to a conference, you can inject it in your booty.
So
you can
there's
inject
To give you volume.
volume.
you, non-surgical BBLs is the
Yes.
latest, right? But
Exactly.
let's start with the face and then we'll work our way down the body because you can. It used to be just
Yes.
lips and
Yeah.
maybe filler wherever, but now talk about. Let's start face. We'll work our way down. What can you
Yes.
use it for?
Okay, so you want to restore volume. So a good injector is going to do a global assessment, right? They're going to look at you as a whole. Where have you aged? Where could I replace the volume, right? So you want to restore volume to the mid-face, temples, marionettes, jawline, because that's where we age. We're going to deplete the volume there. So that's basically what filler is for. Botox, you could work magic. You could even get inject it to the platysmal bands to get a little neck lift, like a little Nefertiti neck lift.
And that's
but
with Botox.
With Botox.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
So point it out to me. You're saying here. I know you're naming body parts, but some people don't know. So explain it to me
okay.
like you're 2 years, like I'm 2 years old.
Okay,
like
so
I'm 2.
mid-face is going to be, I do mid-face restoration. It's going to be the under eye filler, the cheeks, temples
Yes.
as well, because we have
That's
volume
filler.
last,
Okay,
filler.
okay.
Yes, you're going to
Rellenos.
do your jawline,
Yes.
the chin. We don't really do nasal labial folds as much as we used to when we got in the industry, which for me it's been 13 years. I don't know how long it's been for you.
8.
Yeah. So
Why? Why is that?
because it's a difficult area to there's just a technique. There's certain ways that you do it, but we don't really put a lot of filler there because it just migrates upward to this area anyways.
Okay.
So there's better ways to fill, which is filling up in the cheeks first, putting a small amount in the piriform aperture, which is all right here, all the way down to the bone, and then it pops that corner out. So that's a new way of doing it, but a lot of people still are used to the old way, so they'll come in asking for that, but it's our job to educate them, right? And tell them, okay, I know you want it there, but this is really where you need it. So we'll do mid-face restoration, which is under eyes and cheek lift.
And it's aging, right? When it's gravity.
Right.
So the normal is gravity, we tend to go down. It's
Right.
So that's why this looks worse. So just like she said, we're always supposed to start mid-face. When you start mid-face, that pulls this up right away naturally, and it softens your nasolabial fold. So that's why you don't need so much here. So work up, down, like gravity, right? So when we age, we lose elasticity, and we're just replacing that with hyaluronic acid.
So you would start lifting from up here with a
Yes.
filler
We're
versus
always
down
supposed to,
here, because
yes.
it'll be heavy. I get it, I get it, I get
Start from the top, work your way down, because this is what's pulling down. Once we start lifting this up with filler, cheeks, then we don't need so much here. We're lifting up.
And it's better on the pocketbook, because if you have a good injector, she's going to be conscious of that, right? So she's going to start at the top, not slam a bunch of filler to try to correct one problem. She's going to have a global approach. She's going to look at your entire face and have a plan.
That's why assessment is so
It matters and training.
is so important with a good injector, because a lot of patients come just, I want this, but they don't understand once you explain to them, hey, we need to start up here.
And what about the filler for the under eye? I remember when I had my baby, a lot of friends were having babies around the same time. And it was like a trend back then that everybody started getting the fillers under their eyes. And they would say, yeah, it's going to help with the black eyes because nobody's sleeping with the babies. And so is that still happening?
Or has it changed?
Absolutely, but the techniques are way different.
Talk about
the
that.
way we used to do under eye filler. Well, at least for me, I know I went to an advanced training, and you really have to go deep with that filler for it to look natural.
Like with a cannula, I remember.
Yes, with a
I was
cannula,
like,
and it goes all the way down to the bone, and it's actually safer, and it just looks way better because it pops that whole tissue out, so it looks really natural. But it does reflect light, so then you're going to have the illusion of less under eye circles.
That is, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors.
okay.
Because filler in general it's not for dark circles.
Right.
It's not to get rid of the dark circles.
Exactly.
But if you have it hollow, I always describe it like as a little cave, right?
Exactly.
It's like it's a hollow cave.
Yes.
So a lot of patients will say it helps me with the dark circles, but what you're doing is lifting up that volume,
Yeah.
and it's not dark like a cave, so then they say, but it's not, filler is to fill in, not to get rid of dark circles. But again, start with a mid-face,
Right.
and maybe you don't need eyes
At all.
at the end.
Yeah.
Because to me, eyes are my least favorite. I don't know about you.
Yes.
To
I
do.
actually love
You
doing
do?
eyes.
I
Yes.
hate doing eyes.
I mean,
That's
they're
my
tricky.
last.
They're tricky
They're
because
tricky.
the skin is so thin. It's very unforgiving. So
Yes.
you
You
have
to be a very good
have
injector.
to be talented. Like it's an art.
Man, and you can tell when someone's done it wrong, which we'll talk about shortly. I want to get to the other body parts that, like you said, I did see it on social media, the non-surgical BBLs,
Yes.
but there's other things. Botox for the armpits and sweating, some of the other things. Touch on those.
Trap tox, that's trending. Yeah. So trapezius tox, so you get a more swan-like aesthetic look. So
that would
like
be for like the summer, everybody
Yes.
in bathing suits and
Wow.
trying to
Exactly.
like
Tension,
yes.
For tension,
Yeah.
this
For
also-
stress.
the
Yes.
masseter, Botox.
Ooh, that's
right
a
now
good
you just
one. Yes.
yeah, you just touched on one. As you grow older, like a lot of people start grinding their teeth,
Yes.
and so a lot of people also get the Botox to help with that instead of, I guess, wearing a mouth guard at night and then
Yes.
breaking your teeth, fracturing your teeth. So how does that work, and how often do you have to do it?
A lot of dentists actually recommend Botox for that grinding teeth or the TMJ. you're at night grinding your teeth. So it's this muscle right here that's called the masseter Botox. Or if you chew a lot of gum, right? It's like exercising that muscle. Like when you go to the gym, you exercise, right?
Yeah.
So you get
So it gets bigger.
So it gets bigger. So you just inject Botox on this muscle. It also works for slimming
Yeah,
the face.
so if you
it
want a
works for
more
two things.
aesthetic appearance, your cheeks will pop. You slim the masseter, your
That's
cheeks
crazy
will pop.
what you could do. I
Yes.
love it. I'm so happy we live during this time and age where we can like really de-age ourselves.
It works for
Right?
two things.
Yeah. So we're, as we said, we're in the U.S. We talked about everything. We keep stressing, and I've heard both of you say it, a good injector, a bad injector, and they're out there. A bad injector is, who would you, if you're sitting with us, who would you not go to? Let's say you were an injector, or not that you know, but you're suggesting to someone, what would you say?
Well, first I look at their
Without
profile.
naming names.
Yeah, we won't name names. I'll look at their profile, and the first thing is if they look overdone, you're gonna look overdone too. So definitely that's number one. Start by looking at their profile. Two, you want to look at their credentials. I feel like, who's trained them. What are they RN, and what are they? So you want to double check that they're even registered, because there's a lot of injectors out there that are not injectors at all whatsoever.
Really?
Yes.
So I know people who've gone to parties. In fact, I got invited to one a while back. I'm like, who's injecting? Who is it? No. And I feel like it's people always trying to get a deal, and I get it. It's an expense. It's a luxury to get all this stuff done. It
Right,
absolutely
yes.
is. We're first world problems, right? But you don't want to mess around with someone putting stuff in your face.
I don't
Talk
feel
about
like
that, both of you.
You should. Well, we've both seen a lot of injections gone bad. We'll just call it that. And maybe the injector just didn't know better. Maybe she's new. Maybe she's just didn't know better. Let's just say that. But I mean, I've had to dissolve plenty of injections gone bad.
How do you do that?
So there's a medication
Okay.
that is called Hylenix. That's a brand name. There's other names for it, but basically, what it goes in. Think of filler as the ghost, and think of the medication as Pac-Man. So it just goes in wherever you put it. It's going to eat the ghost. So it's going to eat that filler. It leaves everything else alone, but it eats that filler. And so if like there's a risk involved, so you could get an occlusion if you're doing filler anywhere on the face, really. I mean, there's some higher risk areas like the nose. The chin is actually one of the higher risk areas too. So you always want to have Hylenix on hand. You want to ask your injector, do you have Hylenix on hand? I would ask before I went into any office. What about you?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of, how she said, gone wrong. I think nowadays, this aesthetic has become so popular that everybody wants to do it.
Yes.
Any nurse, any office, any dentist office, or anything like that. So that's very important. Some nurses take a 1-day course.
Oof.
And that to me is like, no.
Red flag.
Of course.
Big one. A 1-day course or 2-day course, and they think they could do it, and it's takes years
Yes.
of knowing
and training.
anatomy, and that is it's so dangerous. People don't know how dangerous
Tell me.
it is
Tell
to
me,
be
tell
an
me.
aesthetic nurse.
Tell them how
Like,
dangerous
tell me how
it is.
dangerous it is, because I don't think we know
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I don't think
So
that
when-
anybody really knows
Knows,
that, right?
exactly.
Because
Yeah.
as an injector, like
Let's talk about it.
you don't want to scare your patient.
No.
No, but look- but it happens.
A
Let's
lot
talk
of people
about it.
don't know.
Risks,
Yeah.
Yeah. When I first started, I didn't even know aesthetic nurses existed. And then when I got hired, I was like, why does he need a nurse for injections? The more I got into it, I was like, oh my
Oh,
God,
yes.
it's crazy important to know, to be a nurse. Like
Yes.
you said, you can't, some states have medical estheticians do it. No good also. We could literally
You
have
could go
dead
blind.
skin.
You can go
Go
blind.
blind.
That's
That's
like your
Psychosis.
face and everything.
Stroke.
And face, you have
Stroke.
one.
Yes.
It's not like you can
Yeah,
hide
you
it.
can get a
A
stroke.
stroke,
A stroke, you could
though.
go blind, you could lose your skin. you know,
Yes.
tissue necrosis. So that's how important it is to choose your injector. So if you inject it in the wrong place, I could.
And your injector needs to be available, you know, and like I was, you know, you want a team, like for me as an injector, I have a team of people that I know that if I call like plastic surgeons that are nearby, if I need backup, they got my back. I know that it's just colleagues that we have good relationships
Yes.
with. And so, yeah, it's kind of a big deal. Like you could go blind, you can include,
A vessel.
yeah, so.
I mean,
have
real
necrosis.
health risks, like a stroke.
Yes.
Stroke's legit. Like
No, it's-
I mean,
yeah.
besides it messing up your face for sure, but stroke is at a whole nother level. And you're right about that. It's not easy. A 1-day course, and I thought it was just other countries because I see a lot of this. People go to other countries and. A certification. I was online. We were talking about this beforehand. A bikini model who had a 1-day certification. Next thing you know, she's like doing something in people's faces, and I freaked out. I actually sent it to a friend of mine. But I guess it happens here
A lot.
in the
Yes.
U.S. and other states that are more lax.
Yes.
Yes.
There's
We do see a lot of those Botox parties.
There you go. So
Uh,
that should be a
and-
red flag, no?
yes.
Like, why would you go to a
To-
house and
Yes.
not to an
And-
office where they have the proper things to take care of you if something goes wrong?
If something goes wrong, yes.
Price,
And how do you know they're injecting Botox?
you don't.
Yeah.
That's
Or
another
whatever
thing.
they're injecting in an office. Not that it couldn't happen in a doctor's office or a med spa or
Yes.
something here, but at those parties, I just so. And
Yes.
her and I were talking about this when we were still journalists. And years ago, in my reporter days, I covered a trial of these 2 injectors that were allegedly nurses, and were having these parties. We lived near Mexico, and they were injecting industrial silicone
Yes.
and a lot of and the damage they did to people's bodies. But it happens.
Terrible.
It happens in this country. It happens other places. I just think, like you were saying, when you're talking about not just your face but your body, this is my personal opinion. I'm not a nurse. I'm not an expert, but I do I do a lot of beauty stuff. I'm not looking to bargain shop. It's a luxury, but it's better to save and go with someone you trust than.
Better safe than sorry.
Right?
Como dicen en español,
Lo
lo barato
barato
sale
sale
caro.
caro.
Sí.
Yeah.
Y sobre todo si te echan a perder, es tu salud, ¿no?
Claro.
Especially here in El Paso, we live right at the border.
Yeah.
So we see tons of patients going to Juarez to get fillers, Botox.
Yes.
And it is about the price, right? So my suggestion to them is, I mean, if you're gonna go, go. But I always tell them, look at what they're injecting. Make them open it in front of you.
Yes.
Half of them, when they come back, they don't know what they got injected,
Right.
right? That you ask them and they're like, I don't know.
No sé.
No sé.
Pero arréglame. No sé,
had-
pero no sé.
Oh,
Arréglame.
man.
That told me she got filler drawn up. And I said,
wow,
no,
no.
that doesn't happen or exist.
What do you
That's
mean
not
filler
possible.
drawn up? Explain it to me.
So she was describing that she got filler, but then she made the motion like it's drawn up out of a vial. I do baby syringes, but it's
You
different.
open it
It's
in front
different.
of them
Yes,
and- yeah.
open it in front of them.
Ah,
and
so
everything.
that doesn't make sense at
No,
all.
zero.
As a client, think about it. They're nervous, right?
Yes.
So they're all sweaty. They're about needles make them nervous. So
Absolutely.
they're not really going to know what's going on. So
Interesting.
And so when someone comes in like that, and I feel for people, I mean, I've seen even when I look at people, I'm like, oh. I always think you want to stick with someone you trust and you know. And once you find someone, it doesn't matter who you go to.
right.
But you go and you evaluate them. But in those situations where you don't know what went wrong and what they did to themselves, well, how do you handle that?
Well, if it's really bad, you call in your backup.
Yeah. Call a doctor.
But I mean, if it's just basic stuff, you start Hylenexing, and it actually
Dissolving
costs them more because now they're gonna have to pay me to dissolve it. Then now they're gonna have to pay me to refill it. So why not just come to me in the first place, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have a patient, pobrecita. She went to Mexico. She's
yeah.
had 8 lip surgeries to get rid of the silicone.
Oh my
Wow.
That's a good point.
Wow.
She's wasted so much
Money.
money.
Trying
She's
to
had
fix
to
the problem
pay
now.
because once it's silicone,
Yes,
we
it's
can't get rid
silicone.
of it.
I feel
Is
it.
it industrial grade silicone or
Yes, I think so. I mean, you feel it.
feel it hard.
Juvederm Ultra Plus is
like something you get at Home Depot?
Yes.
Silicone.
Oh my
Yes.
god.
Yes.
So the only way to remove it is surgically.
yeah.
So now
And
she has to pay. Sorry.
I send them to you guys because I'm like, you're gonna have to go see Sozer
Yeah.
because
No,
I
I like
can't. You know, there's nothing I can do for you. I can't. I can put 20 vials in there and nothing's gonna happen.
Yes.
20 vials of the dissolver's not gonna touch it.
Because it hardens and it lumps and it deforms your face.
That's
Yes.
scary.
Yeah.
That
It,
is
it,
very
it happens.
scary.
It happens more than you would think,
It does.
Yes.
and it happens in this country. And anything
Right.
can go wrong, like you say. It's still something that you're doing around your face. You have to know anatomy because there's
Yes.
very serious veins around your face,
Yes.
your neck.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, what about somebody that wants to come and get more stuff done? When, like, if I come and I say, okay, I want you to do my lips, and then I come back and I'm like, I want more, and I want more. Is that possible?
I'd be like, ya te picaste, no.
It happens a lot.
Every day. It's
Every
So-
day.
So what?
Yes.
What do you do? What do you say?
Well,
Or
you know,
like,
it's,
give
you,
me
it's sensitive.
more,
So there's
like-
some body dysmorphia going on there. So it's a very sensitive issue. So you got to be careful how you approach it, because you know there's emotions involved. So
Of course.
you want to kindly tell them that. I usually say, hey, no, you're good right now. Let's wait another 3 months, and then I stretch the 3 months out to 6 months, and
Estoy de vacaciones.
yes.
Because
Se llama tal? No, no estoy.
But yeah, it's true. And you see, people who somebody needs to tell them no.
Yes. They
Some people need to be told no.
Yes,
A good injector
yes.
will tell you no.
Yes.
Right.
I've been told no, just for the record.
Yeah.
Well,
you have a
I
good
mean,
injector.
What they'll do is they'll
I've been
go
told
bounce
no.
around. If
Oh,
I
if
tell
I
them no,
say-
maybe
they'll
they'll
go to
go with
me.
That's
Sandy
true.
but yeah, I've had to tell plenty of them stop. It's no.
¿Y por qué?
Because it
Why?
becomes
Are they
dangerous.
risk?
Yes.
Exactly.
So after a while, it can become dangerous.
Yes.
You put so much filler on the lips.
Oh yeah, it's gonna
has-
occlude. There's
or-
nowhere to go.
Yeah, it
It's
stops
looking
the
for,
blood flow.
and that's how you get migration, guys. The path, everything goes to the path of least resistance. As
Okay.
humans, that's where we're filler's the same way. So if you put too much filler in the lips, it's got to go somewhere. Where is it gonna go?
So that's when you start to see those very deformed lips. And it
Yes.
seems like a couple of years ago, lip filler was a huge thing. Do you remember, guys, this? And
Oh,
duck
yes.
lips were
No,
in.
yeah.
But people think that
What
you-
is that? Duck lips.
the duck que parecen pato, los duck lips, los
Donde,
labios que
like-
parecen demasiado.
Okay.
Como que
Sí.
se hacen así.
Okay. So
But
like
it's
that.
but it's like over injected lips. You've
Okay.
seen them. You've
Okay.
seen them on
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It was a trend, and then but you can't get that from one syringe. That's
No.
over and over and over
Yes.
in bad injectors.
Okay.
That's years of just
It's
Overflowing,
it's just
yeah.
not one syringe. It's
one syringe is
No.
teeny
3,
tiny,
4,
very little.
5,
Yes.
Yes.
It's the size of a
Over.
blueberry.
Yes.
One
Oh,
syringe.
wow.
Yes.
Tiny.
It's
so
tiny.
that means they've gotten a lot
Okay.
of filler.
Okay.
So, how long does a filler last in somebody's face? Like, if I did, like you're talking about how I remember the one time that I've gotten filler, it's been here in the, what's it called, nasal?
Nasally
It was
Well,
years ago though.
Yeah, yeah. So she's talking about how now it's up in the
The
cheeks.
cheeks. Yes.
So, if you do that, how long could it last?
So
Would
there's
it vary, like
studies out
Botox?
now that it lasts way longer than we initially thought. So now with ultrasound, we're seeing filler last, I don't know, 5, 10, 15 years sometimes.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
15 years.
So,
Yes.
which I'm gonna say really quick. There was a time because I started doing Botox like you in 30s, and then as I got older and I was on TV, and so it's very easy to obsess. And I started doing filler, and there was a time that I had filler face, too much filler, and it came a point that I have to get rid of the filler, and it must be surgery, which I will talk about. That's another Talk session, and I'll be open about it. But you always want to go to a good injector. I mean, my personal experience, like what you're talking about,
Yes.
we're all talking about. So
That can say no, right?
Also, as injectors, as she was saying, is there a time frame when you say, okay, we are going to graduate from fillers and Botox to a facelift?
That's your
Yes.
expertise.
Yes, because to me, when they're gonna need so much filler, sometimes the price point equals out the same. I mean,
Right.
not
Interesting.
really. You obviously surgery is going to be more expensive, but it's not going to be enough. Or because filler is very subtle, like she said, it's a size of a blueberry. So can you imagine how much filler you're going to need to fix something?
That really should be just a lift.
So we're lucky enough to have a plastic surgeon there that I could just say, hey, consult with a doctor, see what he thinks. If you don't like what he says, or if he says you're not a candidate, then I'll be glad to see you
To
again.
see what we can do.
But yeah, there's a point where
And there's so much we could keep talking about this. So we may have to do another Tea Talk session about this. I know we have to
Absolutely.
run, but I've had a great time just learning a lot about the situation. So,
So fun.
amigas, it was good to see you all.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
having us.
Seguiremos
So
hablando.
Yes.
Y por supuesto, atención a todas las señales de buscar a las personas correctas para inyectarnos la cara y el cuerpo. Gracias.
Sí.
Salud,
Gracias.
salud.